everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky, and today we're going to be doing a book review of All We Have Is Now by Lisa Schroeder. But first I have a little mini book haul. Actually, my neighbor who lives next door to where I work actually put out a tote with a sign that said free on it, and it was full of books. So of course I had to look. I mean, who can pass up free books? I know I can't. Okay, so the first book that we have is Fallen by Lauren Kate. I've actually read this before, but I loved it so much that I decided to grab it out of the tote. It's a beautiful cover, and I just absolutely love the story, and it's in really good condition too for being a used book. So the next one is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I've heard a lot of good things about Rainbow Rowell and figured, hey, why not? It's free, so I'll give this one a try too. And the next one that I have is Sweet Filthy Boy by Christine Lauren. Seems to be kind of like a romance type story, so I'm giving this one a try as well. And the last one is more or less a duology. I think it's duology. The first one is called Unwind by Neil Shusterman. And then of course we also have Unholy. From the description, they kind of sound like dystopian type books, so I don't know. We'll give it a try and I'll let you know how it is. So that's it for my book haul. So now let's get to the review. This book, I have to say, was actually quite good. I was pleasantly surprised with it. It was definitely different from what I read. It was more or less about two kids who are homeless. One is a runaway though. There's a boy named Vince and a girl named Emerson, and they've been living with each other in this homeless shelter. And they have this impending doom of an asteroid that's supposed to be hitting the Earth, and of course this has been announced by the government, so everybody thinks it's real. And basically they decide that they want to end it before it actually happens. This is what the beginning of the book is about. I don't want to give too much away, so I'm going to start to get in depth about it. So if you don't want to be spoiled by it, I want you to stop watching this video now. Okay, so they go to this bridge that is pretty much called Suicide Bridge in the town that they live in. And they're just gonna jump off and be like, well, why are we gonna be around for this huge asteroid to hit the Earth and destroy humankind? Why was the point of waiting for the inevitable? And when they go there, they meet this guy named Carl, and he's basically trying to do the same thing, but I guess before that he'd been helping people. He'd been helping them with wanting to make their wishes come true, I guess you could say, before the end. And they end up meeting him, and he's about to jump, but then he sees them and he stops, and he comes over and he asks, what do they want? And of course, you know, without even giving Emerson a chance, Vince says money, because, well, they're homeless, they're poor. He wants money. So he hands him the wallet, and he's like, well, I've been helping people too, so I want you to pay it forward. So they end up going, and they decide that they're going to try and do the same thing. The first person that they run into is a kid named Hayden, and of course his dream, or his wish, would be to become a rock star. The place they go to has karaoke, and they pretty much sing along to a bunch of songs, and of course Hayden loves it. You know, he's like, this is awesome, this is what I needed. And after that, they run into this woman named Jackie. She comes up to them saying, help, you know, somebody's taken my car, I can't find it, I need help. So they try and help her. Come to find out, she ended up just parking her car at the wrong block, and she just wasn't paying attention. She's actually out jogging when she parked her car, so she forgot where she parked it. But I guess her dream was to go to Paris, so they take her to this little cafe. It's like a French cafe. They serve things that you would find in France. And of course she meets this guy named Felipe, who is part French, and they dance. They have the French dessert there called macaroons, and have coffee, and it's a fun time. They're dancing, and then Emerson and Vince are like, well, we really should leave. And Jackie's like, well, I'm not going anywhere, so here, take my car. They take the car, and they end up going to the library. And while they're there, they meet this woman named Rima and her 6-year-old daughter named Anika. So they talk to them, and of course their mother is really skeptical of Vince, and Emerson doesn't know what to think. And when they ask the little girl, you know, what's something that you've always wanted to do, she talks about going and playing with kittens, you know, cats. Oh, well, we could take you to the animal shelter. And this is what they were planning on doing for her, so that she could go and play with the animals. And her mother's like, no, it's not something I want to do. Takes her out away. So unfortunately, they don't get to help Anika, but at least they tried. And the next person they meet is Kat. Now, this is one character I didn't really care for. If you want to talk about a character that gets in the way in the story, this will be one. She's only in it for a couple of chapters. But I run into her at this mansion that Vince was taking Emerson to. I guess he wanted to surprise her. So he brought her to this mansion, and of course they run into Kat, who ends up pretty much ruining the surprise for Emerson. Her wish is to be kissed, because she'd never been kissed. Now we find out in this story as we're reading it that Vince likes Emerson, and Emerson does like Vince, but she doesn't want to let it happen, so to speak. She doesn't want to ruin the friendship that they have, so she says, you know, sorry, it's not going to happen. So when Kat says to Vince, well, you know, I've never been kissed, and of course Emerson tries to act like she's not jealous, but she clearly is, and she feels left out because she leaves them. They went to this little house that's on the grounds of the mansion, and that's where Vince kisses Kat, and Emerson is not happy. Okay, and also I want to point this out. They have a lot of Peanuts references, like the Peanuts cartoons references in the book, and of course Vince in the book is wearing the famous yellow shirt with the black stripe across it, the Charlie Brown t-shirt. And of course they make a reference to, there's a kid named Schroeder in the Peanuts cartoon. So I'm wondering if the author's name, the last name, is really Schroeder, or if she picked it because she's a Peanuts cartoon fan. I don't know, but little theory there. Okay. And of course, throughout the story, we are hearing about Carl. He meets up with somebody who's a complete stranger, takes him into this little, I think it's cafe or a restaurant, and of course, his new friend, this person he doesn't really know, ends up passing away. So Carl's going to take his car because, come to find out, he was trying to get back to his wife. He was going to end it all, but when he heard from his wife, he decided to go back and meet her because she was out of town. He didn't expect her to come back. I believe she went to go see her mother. When he hears from her, he decides, hey, I'm going to go and, you know, meet back up with my wife. So he's about to get into this car that he got from the person that passed away, the one that he was with, and he gets hit over the head and somebody steals his car. And of course, somebody nearby sees it happen and decides to, you know, help him. And he's rescued by this woman and her daughter, and we find out that the person that is rescuing him is Emerson's mom and sister, which Emerson and Vince, they go to a grocery store to see what's left on the shelves, to see what they can get for food-wise. And they meet these two girls named Kaylee and Kendall, who are twins. Come to find out that they were abandoned in the store by their mother for two guys. And they mention them like when they first get in the store, but we don't know who they are. But they look like junkies. So that itself was kind of unnerving. And then when you find out that it was their mother that left with the two guys, it's frustrating. They're only 12 years old, and while that might seem like they're old enough to take care of themselves, still, you know, if it really is the end of the world, you should be with your kids. You shouldn't be running off with total strangers for whatever the reason. So they run into these girls, and they basically feel bad for them because they're just sitting there in the grocery store. The mother told them, stay here, wait for me. And of course, Emerson and Vince, they don't want to do that. They don't feel comfortable doing that, so they decide to take them back to their house. When they get to the house, Emerson and Vince see that it is very much, it's messy, it's cluttered, it's not clean. There's dishes all over the place, trash all over the place. It's not a good environment for kids at all. Like, this place should really look better than it does. So they decide to try and give the girls like one last hurrah, why are we gonna leave them here when we could make it fun for them. Now, before I go any further, Vince has been trying to get Emerson back to her mom pretty much since the beginning of the story because of the impending of what's supposed to happen. But of course, Emerson keeps pushing it off. They end up going to this park I think it's called Storybook Park, and it's got a lot of different things in there. I think it's got things like Alice in Wonderland and all the fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood, things like that. So it's a really cool park for the kids. After they go to the park, they end up bringing the girls back, and just as they're dropping them off, their mother comes home. So while it's a good thing, you still kind of have to feel bad for the kids because they don't seem like they're in the best situation, but not really much they could do there. After they leave the girls' house, they're heading back home to bring Emerson to see her mom, to say goodbye. And they end up going to a local cafe, diner. It might be a diner, I think. And they run into this group of people that are sitting around a table, and they're discussing theories as to whether or not this asteroid warning is real or fake. And this part is where it gets really interesting. One of the things they say is that it might be a lesson being taught to them because of the way that the world is, the country is, the whole world, though, is at the moment. The country literally is going to hell. There's shootings in schools and in malls, in public places, terrorist threats. The economy has gone downward a lot. There's theories that the government is behind it, and that these top secret astronomers and experts will fix the problem in time. The stock market crash and the high unemployment rates, and basically it's just, the country's in a bad situation, and this is the government's way of saying, hey, you guys need to wake up, we need to fix this. They sit around and they're eating and they're talking about this. And of course, Emerson and Vince start to think that, maybe this isn't real. Maybe this is just the government trying to, get people to realize that things need to be fixed. They end up getting back, after they leave the diner, they end up going back to Emerson's mom's house, finally. Come to find out, she's not there. So they decide to go to her dad's house. And he's not there either, so they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? So they decide that they're going to go to Carl's place because they're thinking, well, if he was about to jump and he gave us his wallet, he must live alone. So they decide to go back to his house. And this is where they run into his wife named Trinity. And of course, they talk to her, tell her what was going on with Carl, and they're about to leave when they see a car pull up. So of course, Emerson has Vince turn around. She gets out, and come to find out, it is her family. She recognized the people in the driver's seat, and she's like, yes, that's my parents. And Emerson gets out. It's a big, very warm, heartfelt family reunion. She thought that they weren't going to want to see her, but they were very much happy to see her, which is, it's a good thing. And we find out in the story the reason why she ran away is because her mom's boyfriend was very controlling and manipulative, and Emerson didn't like that. It's like, you're not even married to my mom, you're not even considered my stepdad, and you're trying to run my life, it's not fair. And of course her mother, instead of sticking up for her, stuck up for her boyfriend, and Emerson just got fed up with it and she ran away. She couldn't stand being at home anymore. So that's the reason why she ran away. Vince ends up turning the car back around and leaving without telling Emerson. She didn't know. They end up going inside, because they're like, well, why don't we wait and see if Vince is going to come back? And when they're inside, they sit down to eat, and of course when the opportune moment comes, because her mother's getting all upset because everybody's sitting around talking, laughing, it's almost like they're celebrating. She's like, what's there to celebrate? We're, you know, the end of the world's coming. And she ends up slipping out the door. So when she goes out there, she sees him, she sees Vince. I guess while they were standing there talking, Frankie pokes her head out and says that they have to come inside because they have to hear what's being said on the radio. And here's the big reveal. Come to find out, the asteroid was, as they said, a hoax. It was not real. Now this book takes place over about 24 hours. It starts at 8 p.m. one day and it ends about 8 p.m. the next day. It basically takes place over what's supposed to be the last 24 hours before the asteroid hits. And it was just, for me, it was a really good read. It was definitely different from what I'm used to, but it also was kind of an eye-opener for me, especially about the way the world is right now. I was actually kind of anxious towards the end of the book because I just didn't know whether or not they were going to say, hey, the asteroid is a hoax or it's real. Because it wasn't until, I think, the very last page where it said, no, there's no asteroid. And honestly, if they had ended on a cliffhanger where they didn't say whether or not the asteroid was a real thing, I probably would not have liked the book as much. So, as a final rating, I gave this book, I believe, a 4 out of 5 stars on my Goodreads. It was quite good, and if you want something a little different, I recommend it. I almost forgot my book jar, because I gotta pick out the next book. I am still reading Trail of Broken Wings, but I'm not that far into it. So. Okay, so this one is called Touched by Elisa Moore. It's on my Kindle. I'm not going to get it to show you, but that is what I'm going to be reading next. And as you can see, I am actually filming in front of my bookshelf. This is where I'm hoping to do most of it. My camera is currently up on a stack of books because I do not have a tripod, but that will be changing very soon because this is just, honestly, I'm afraid to move it because I really don't want my camera to fall. So you've seen this in my videos. I think that's it. Doing book discussions, like I said, 1 video a week. Yeah, we'll be doing at least 1 or 2 videos a week. One will be a book discussion, and maybe a tag video will be the other one, which is what I'm planning on doing. But yeah, I think that's all. I hope you all enjoyed this. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment, subscribe if you like, and I will see you all next time. Bye.